Welcome to episode 123, and today I am joined by Jarred Rubin, who has created a culture of accountability and alignment. So we're going to discuss how he's built that structure, which also includes all employees being an owner, which seems to me like a really great way to retain people. And Jarred is the CEO and partner at Blackwattle Investment Partners, and they are a new generation, highly aligned Australian investment manager investing in quality businesses and people. So welcome, Jarred.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm really excited to hear about this because I think it's a model that you don't often come across. But before I get there, I'd love to know from you, what does alignment actually mean in practice?
So, for us, when we think about alignment, essentially, alignment is at the core of everything we do at Blackwattle. To take a bit of a back step, as you mentioned, we're a new generation funds management business. We spent 2 to 3 years looking at the funds management space and really took a view that what is lacking in a lot of current fund managers is that alignment. So, alignment with your investors, your staff, with the people putting money in, your investees. So what we really wanted was a culture where we're completely aligned throughout the value chain. So as you mentioned, everyone in our business are equity owners, which we think is really important. And where that came from was when we were speaking to people, often you find the founders have started a business 10, 20 years ago. You build up with staff coming through, and while staff want to become owners, there's never essentially an opportunity to do so. So having a blank sheet of paper, we thought was a great way to start with that as the baseline. Other components around alignment is we ask our investment managers to invest in the funds themselves. So as someone coming to invest in the funds, your fund managers are co-invested with you. They build their portfolios and then they earn money through a profit share arrangement. So everyone takes a reduced salary. The incentive structures are where you get paid through profit share. And the last component is that what we do is we ask all our teams to solely invest in the fund. So unfortunately, in other asset management businesses, you do see people what's called PA or personal trading, and they are actually trading on the side. Now, for us, there's inherent conflicts for a number of reasons. For us, your focus should be fully on the funds, where your clients and your own money are. So we've tried to create a structure where we have alignment layered throughout the whole business. And as we say, when we think about our business and everything we're doing, we talk about alignment being at the core and center of everything we do.
How do you find with that structure when you're sharing that with people that are going to be working for your business? What's the general reaction? Do you get people that are like, yeah, I'm totally on board with that? Like, does it filter and also like detract people as well, so you know that you're getting the right people in?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things we've found has been such a benefit for what we're building is very quickly you find people who are culturally aligned to what you want to do. We talk about three key components that we're looking for in people. The first is humility. In our industry, there's a lot of egos, and we're trying to get rid of those egos. So humility is a big one. And we spend a lot of time with people before making a decision to allow them into our business. Because if you think about it, they're coming into the equity structure, they're going to be owners, they're going to be a part of the partnership. So we spend a lot of time on that. The second one is drive. And we talk about drive, we're asking people to take pay cuts, to come in, earn money through profit share, and really be driven to build something. And the third component we talk about is intellectual curiosity. Unfortunately, a lot of people come in with preconceived ideas, with biases, and you really need to be curious. You need to think, you want to learn, want to build yourself. And so those are the three things that we talk about. And essentially, to your point, Karen, what's happened is with the structures we've built, it very quickly finds people who are culturally aligned to the business and to what we're looking to achieve. So that's absolutely been a big benefit of it.
Mm. And what about the impact on trust and motivation and decision making? Because if you have a business where everyone kind of owns the business, can you take us through the pros and cons of that?
For sure. So look, we'll start at there's a great quote from an individual, Charlie Munger, and he says, "Show me the incentive, and I'll show you the outcome." And we really like to look at that is what are the incentive structures that are in place for people to ensure that they're the right behaviours and ultimately the right outcomes. Now, in terms of your questions around, how did we how it's impacted. So what we, in terms of have put in place with the profit share structures, with that equity ownership, is it ensures that people really focus on those outcomes. Now, what we have had to do is evolve some of those outcomes and KPIs in time. So a good example is as we've grown the business, we now have a sales and distribution team that's growing out of, initially it was just in Sydney, we're now in Melbourne and Brisbane. And so the KPIs for the team as a whole has had to evolve from being, country based to specific around. So I think one of the keys is being nimble and being willing to evolve and change as the needs of the business do change. And I spoke about it earlier, we always mention the fact we have a blank sheet of paper. We don't have legacy issues like a lot of places have got. We're able to really start from scratch. And every year when we're looking at the structures and what's in place, we can again start from that clean sheet of paper and say, okay, what are the right incentive structures at this point in time? We have a core baseline that we start with, and there's certain things that are just core and fixed, but around the edges, how do you evolve to ensure that we're continuing to focus on and all be moving in the same direction? Now, when it comes to decision making, again, because of those incentive structures, we hope most people will do the right thing and focus on those incentives. In saying that, we do still have in place, and I think this is a core component that I see a lot of businesses not have, is clear governance structures. So we put in place very specifically from the outset, primarily independent board of 5. So we have 5 individuals who govern the business. We've then got an executive team, and then each fund essentially are looking after their own strategy, their own process. So while everyone are owners, we still do have very structured governance in place. And I think, regardless of how big or small your business is, that governance is integral and allows you to scale and continue to build out.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to someone recently about advisory boards, and that same idea that if you want to be able to really scale and get to a point where the founder can actually move out, you've just got to have other people in the business.
Absolutely. And it's not just the other people, it's the ability to have other people who've been there, done that. And so, we've had a number of instances where, there's a key decision that needs to be made, and being able to pick up the phone to someone who's got 30 years plus experience, been there, done that, and say, oh, we've seen this multiple times. In this scenario, do this, this, this. It just allows you to fast track that decision making and get to the right decisions faster.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because I think that a lot of times people feel like, well, I'm the owner and I can't get help because I need to be the smartest person in the room, but actually you will stifle your business doing that.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So it all sounds fantastic at the moment, but I'm sure that there have been tensions and challenges as you've scaled the team. So what would you say have been the biggest sort of cultural issues or challenges that you've had with scaling your business?
Yeah, so I think the first thing, and this just as well as we do, building a business is not linear. There's ups and downs, and I think that's absolutely the thing that you just need to know is going to be the case. In terms of some of the challenges that we faced, it is that cultural alignment versus bringing teams on who could be quite value accretive. And that comes back to, we've had some instances where there'd be great portfolio management teams or teams who are interested in joining the business. And when we look at the economics and the numbers, it's like, oh, should we do this? What we often find is because of the structures in place, people just opt not to come in. But we have had to make decisions in time where we've said, look, you're just not the right cultural fit, despite being, potentially a value accretive for the business. So you need to think about the whole as opposed to bringing someone in. As I mentioned before, as we have grown, particularly into other states, there's those tensions between, the incentive structures between the states, the teams. How do you ensure that everyone is getting the right mix? So another great example, and I'm sure lots of people have the sales teams. If you've got sales teams selling multiple products and divisions, how do you ensure that each of the teams are getting the right amount of love, so to speak, from the sales team? And so again, going back to what we spoke about earlier, having a really strong board in place who have in many cases been there, done that, also having the blank sheet of paper, has allowed us to really sit back, talk through anything like this that comes up, and look to address it. One of the things we do every year is we have an offsite where we all get out of the office, get away for a couple of days, and that allows us to talk through strategic planning, any issues that we're having, and really allow us to plan and get away from the tools, so to speak, for a day or two. We have monthly meetings with the partners. We try and be quite open with the team in terms of numbers, where we're at strategically, what we're thinking about, the roadmap going forward. So, one of the key things that we've learned is you want to over communicate with people. I think that's really one of the biggest takeaways as we've been building and growing is, sometimes we've made assumptions that people know things and the team understands and knows where we're going, but they don't. And so over communicate. You might feel like you're telling someone the same thing 3, 4, 5, 6 times, but it is actually really helpful. So some of those things and strategies that we've put in place have certainly helped alleviate some of the growing pains. But no doubt, Karen, there's going to be, for any business that's building and scaling, there's going to be ups and downs, and I think you just have to be ready for those to come, and know that they are going to come, and deal with them as best as you can.
Yeah, be super resilient, I think.
Grit and resilience are the two words that have come up a lot over since we started building the business.
Yeah. I like what you said about communication, because it's something that, I will advise business owners, because normally when we do an engagement survey, very common that communication is one of the lowest areas in the engagement survey results. And also very common that I'll have the founders or the leadership team saying, but oh my goodness, like what else could we do? And it's like, but until you're actually sick of hearing yourself saying the same thing, like that's the first time someone's heard it.
Yes, that's
because you've had all that time to process the information. It's something that you're involved in every day, and until someone connects it directly to, oh, actually, this is how it impacts on me, that they're not hearing it. So. Yeah, and it's funny that it's just doesn't matter what industry you're from. It's just it's a common thing. So it's great that you've already kind of got that in mind. So you've learnt that lesson. So what about when you go live with new funds? How do you keep the culture focused?
Yeah. So again, and it came back to your question earlier in terms of as we are speaking to new funds and potential people coming in. The big thing we start with is, well, this is our culture, this is our business, this is who we are at Blackwattle. We talk through the incentive structures, we talk through the alignment, what we're trying to achieve, and often quite quickly people go, yes, I resonate with that and I'd love to know more, or no, that's not for me. I'm happy to stay as an employee and earn a salary as opposed to taking that profit share. And so that's been one component, is ensuring that cultural fit is really strong. We spend a lot of time with anyone coming on board. And again, I think knowing for all of us as partners that anyone coming in are going to be equity partners means that you do take a really additional level of due diligence and time before bringing them in. Because it's not like you're just bringing a staff member in where, if it doesn't work out, they might have a probationary period. And whereas this is, you're actually bringing someone as a shareholder. So we do spend a huge amount of time meeting everyone within the team. We like to, again, get out of the office, share a meal with someone, just get to know them. And then once you get comfortable again, then meeting the team, then meeting the board. So, it really is we like to call it a marriage. It is a marriage. Anyone coming in, because look, it's a long-term commitment. So we want to make sure that the courting period, so to speak, has been done successfully, and everyone's happy and aligned, and knows where we sit. And as I go back to, what are the three key things we look for people: that humility, that drive, that intellectual curiosity, and just ensuring that they are the right fit. And then when people come in as well, as I mentioned, over communication, lots of meetings. We try get out the office as a team as much as we can, meet with people, integrate people. So I think there's a lot that you can do prior to bringing someone in to make sure that they are the right fit. But then also once they do come in, you need to spend time ensuring that they integrate as seamlessly as possible. So we try and do as much as we can. So far it's been good, but as to your question, as we scale, there will no doubt be additional challenges and changes to come through.
Yeah, I think that time is so important. It's often what people lose sight of, because you spend so much time on the recruitment process. And it's just like, yeah, we've got this new person. But actually, we're not actually then spending more time and onboarding, and then you just end up with issues. The other thing, I love that you call it a marriage and not jail time. So we're talking about wanting a long-term commitment, so that's a positive. But it sounds like you're really clear on your culture, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to have those conversations with people and those three pillars that you were talking about as well. So, that's kind of like music to my ears, obviously. So I think that's just as important as any form of part of your business strategy, is actually being really clear on what the culture needs to be to support that strategy as well. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, we've been fortunate having that. I come back to that blank sheet of paper and being able to define what are the values you want, what's your mission, what's your purpose, what are you actually trying to achieve, and starting from the ground up has been really helpful through all of that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to other founders that are trying to get their teams to think more like owners, and perhaps they're in a completely different industry and can't really do what you're doing, but would you have any advice on just how to get people to kind of take that a little bit more ownership and that alignment and accountability that we've talked about?
Definitely. So the first thing I'll say is there are fantastic structures that the government have put in place called the Employee Share Scheme, the ESS, and that allows you to actually issue options or equity through an employment share scheme plan. So we do it through an ESOP, which is Employee Share Options Plan, but there's various machinations of it that you can look at. There are great provisions in place for new businesses. So if you're less than 10 years as a business or have a revenue of under $50 million, there are specific provisions in place for startup concessions, they're called. So, I think the one thing I'll say is, regardless of industry, regardless of your type of business, I would look into those ESS, and if you fit under the startup concessions, those startup provisions, because it's a great way to incentivize people to come in and at least have the ability to earn equity over a certain period of time. And you can have that equity based on certain KPIs, you can have it time-based, you can have them needing to hit certain milestones, and that's something that I would highly encourage anyone to do, particularly if you've got fantastic employees, because Karen, you said it best, at some point in time as an owner, you want to look at stepping back or transitioning, or giving people some more opportunities in the business, and this is a great way to do so. So I think those ESS provisions are available to anyone is the first thing. The second is going back to that, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. What are the incentives that you have in place for people to allow them to thrive and build, and if they are creating value for your business, they should have the ability to earn value as well. And so, yeah, look at your KPIs, your incentive schemes. Can you put something in place where if people do over deliver or provide a huge amount of value for the business, you can provide them some incentives, whether it be monetary based, a bonus of some sort. If you can't do that, I often hear of tech companies who are, they go away and, take people away for their sales clubs. Can you take the team out and take them away for a couple of nights, or do something to show that appreciation for them? So I think those incentive structures and giving people that feedback loop that they are doing well and it really helps deliver those outcomes would be the other big thing that I would say. And then the third and last one would be what we just spoke about, the cultural aspect. Like really define what are your what are your values? What's your mission? What's your purpose? What's your vision? What do you ultimately want to get through? And I know a lot of people think about it as quite fluffy, but when you're actually living them, and Karen, it sounds like you're very much into them like we are, it really does make a difference to the way you think about the business, the way you treat your employees, the way you're delivering for your clients and everything. So I think a combination of those three aspects really will help. And again, we've been very fortunate that we've had that blank sheet of paper, but there's no reason you can't take a day out of your business, get the team together and just start from scratch and think about what's the best way to do this.
Yeah, I think it's great advice. I think the day out of a business is something that every owner should do at least once a year. So,
Definitely. Definitely.
And just get out of your normal office or your home or whatever and just kind of just sit and think. And you may not even know what you're going to think about, but it'll come. It's all those 3 a.m. things. They all come together. So, look, thank you so much, Jarred, for joining me today. For those listening, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, we've got our Blackwattle Investment Partners page where we are very active. We like to put up information on markets and the team. So if anyone's interested in markets, certainly go there. On LinkedIn as well, please connect with me, Jarred Rubin. You'll see me. And again, I do try and post content on markets and business. So that would be great. And then for the business specifically, we're at blackwattle.partners.com.
Awesome. And we're going to put links to that into the show notes as well if anyone wants to get in touch with Jarred. So thank you very much. And for those listening, if you've received value from this episode, I'd love it if you could leave a rating or a review over at Apple Podcasts or Spotify so someone else can also find the episodes to help with their business. Episodes are released on Mondays. So if you click subscribe, you'll be notified when it's next available. And as always, if you have any feedback, questions, or ideas for future episodes, head on over to amplifyhr.com.au or connect with me on LinkedIn and we can start a conversation.